Good morning, everybody. Betting for breakfast. I'm Mark Drumheller. I'm here with Dave Gleckner, and we are super excited for today's show. Week 2, college football. We are in full swing of the season now, so I can't wait. Dave, you got the glasses rolling. You're ready to go. Florida State shocking the world over LSU. I love to see it. But, before we get started, what was your biggest takeaway? Oh, there you go. Playing the jam. There was nothing. Yo, there was nothing better than that game than the reporter afterwards giving it to Brian Kelly, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's the best.
But I don't know how you lose that game. I mean, it's just they have so much more talent, I think, than Florida State. And for them to lose that game, it's just like insane.
Yeah,
well, it's just.
I get your point about on paper, but it's insane that Florida State had to block an extra point to win that game. They dominated them physically.
Dominated them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So it was
absolutely.
And that's the story of Florida State, right? That's the story of Norvell. They lose these games awfully. I'm like, if Kelly goes for 2, that game's over. I was like thanking my lucky stars he went for 1.
I don't like. I was kind of going back and forth with people in that. Like, typically I'm a go for 2, win the game kind of guy, but I thought in that point, you just need to kick the extra point. It should be easy. Now, maybe they identify the issues they were having earlier in the game, blocking them up and say go for 2. But if I'm LSU, I have no problem going to overtime. They had all the momentum. They're the better team on paper. They really never should have been in that spot. But I understood him kicking it, but the fact that they got the kick blocked and they were having those issues the entire game, letting people get through. And in the biggest point of the game, they weren't able to shore it up and get the job done. It's an extra point. It's the easiest play to execute in the entire football game.
It's crazy. And I mean, a lot goes into the planning, but you saw they found a deficiency in the LSU special teams and they attacked it. And that's why, for me, I go for the 2 because they were gassed. You went 99 yards.
Right. It's an awesome point.
Yeah. And that's really
a good argument.
Now, listen, that's easy to say now that they missed the extra point. But for me, going into overtime, Florida State can hit the reset button, get back to that rushing game. And I just thought, who knows? LSU still might win. Don't get me wrong. But, I'll take it. And it's really exciting for Florida State. This is a bowl year. This is a year that they need to make a bowl game. And to win that game like that was huge. And then on the horizon is Louisville coming up on Friday night. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they respond because you saw what Louisville did last night. That's a good win.
I didn't. So I didn't watch that game. I saw enough of Louisville the following week. I lost. I had a money line parlay with the Buckeyes, the Bulldogs, and Louisville at plus 116 that did not get through because they got starched by Syracuse.
They're good. And I
couldn't watch them.
At the beginning of the year, Syracuse over 4.5 was one of my favorites. That team's a little, they're different, right?
I didn't buy the quarterback.
Yeah,
I didn't buy Schrader, and that's kind of the thing. Though he played lights out, so but there were a lot of games last year towards the end of the year where he rolled out a 30-40% completion percentage.
Oh yeah, I don't believe in him, but they play this weird style of game that's not really in college anymore with him, and it's different, and it's tough if they're getting physically, better than another team. So, but
I believe in Tucker. I'll tell you that. Yeah, that dude's got burst, man.
Yes.
He hits the turbo button and it's over.
And we talked about him at the beginning of the year too, how he is, a special player. But you talked about at the beginning of the show what, opened my eyes during the first week of college football. And what opened my eyes, I mean, I'm going to one game, but that Ohio State Notre Dame game opened my eyes from the standpoint of, is it possible that Ohio State is not that dominant on offense as we thought? Now, or is it Notre Dame just had a great game plan and wanted to just really keep away ball, stay in the game as long as possible, and they executed perfectly. That's what's going to open my eyes going forward, because if Ohio State, they looked like they couldn't move the ball. Now, I know Njigba gets hurt, right? So that changed, but they couldn't run the ball either. And if they can't do those things, there's no shot against the SEC. If you can't do those things against Notre Dame, so that opened my eyes. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a couple things, right? And I think it does really magnify how good Jackson Smith and Jigba is and what he means to that offense, right? So let's and to lose a player like that when your whole, I don't want to say your whole game plan, but a big part of your game plan is focused on getting him the ball, right? So to lose him early and then kind of have to make adjustments on the fly, like I think made things quirky and clunky for them, right? And
Yep.
the tack on the fact that Notre Dame, very good team, looked very good defensively, but they played to cover. Like they
They
played,
did.
too high shell. They wanted to keep everything in front of them, and without Smith and Jigma there to stretch the field, like they didn't have enough weapons, and it kind of turned
You
out
got to
that way. Like
adjust.
yeah,
You
oh,
got
I
to,
agree, but
yeah.
you also like it's like okay, like let's take Tillman off Tennessee today and see what they look like. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's I think it's
Yeah,
a
but it's
big
not that.
loss
You
that
still got
people are kind of
Harrison. You still got
swift.
3 5-star recruits at receiver. Like
They
I
are, but
mean,
they're not him. Like
it,
I don't think that they're him. So I
they,
mean that's how I saw it. Like I
yeah.
saw it that like hey, it was a combination of the way Notre Dame played them, like wasn't super aggressive, kind of let them get their yards. And the way and we might see more of that from teams playing these type of, explosive offenses. I mean, that's what they do in the NFL. So and a combination of that and losing Smith and Jigba, like I still think Ohio State's like one
But
of the top teams.
oh yeah, I agree. But to your point, you're saying they go back in the shell and they can't run the ball against an even box. That's I'm
Right.
just
Yep. It's a good
that's
point.
where I'm just trying to understand what I saw out of Ohio State. That opened my eyes. Dan
Mhm.
Green checked in, said his Mountaineers had a devastating loss. They did, but they covered, so I don't care. They got me to that hook. So I hear you. And we could talk about a little bit of Pitt today. I don't know. That's a good game on the agenda. You talked about Tennessee already. That's going to be a very interesting game.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. Guys, we appreciate you tuning in. Got best bets? Drop them in the comments. If not, do us a favor. Hit the like button. Take care of the good people at the Sharp app. Listen, college football season has been great. Our guy, Ryan Besh, who was on here, a few weeks back, firing off bets in his channel. We got the NCAA football channel popping. Get in the Discord. The link is in the description. We got our AI prediction model running, giving you, all the tools that you need to be a winning better this year in college football. So make sure you download the app, get in the Discord, and join the fun with us this season. Definitely. But right now, while you're there, just hit the like button on YouTube. Like, take care of us a little bit, right? We're trying to have a good time here, win some bets. Let's hit that like button. But thanks for tuning in and joining us. Dave, let's get right into the action, right? Like let's get into the game everybody's talking about. It is Alabama, Nick Saban against the assistants. That's all you hear all week. Nick Saban and the assistants. When he plays his assistant coaches, he blows them out of the water. But Kirby Smart got the best of them last year. So is it different now, right? So Alabama against Texas, huge favorites. This one opened up around 18. We're seeing some 21s touching the board. We got a total of around 65. Alabama looked very impressive, 55-0 over Utah State. Last week it was Utah State that they rolled on, right? That was
Yep.
them.
Yep. It
And
was.
it was and they looked very, very impressive. And Texas looked good, but I felt like they showed some deficiencies that are going to show up pretty big in this game. What is your take on this one? Even if you don't have a bet, like I don't have a bet on this game, I got a small play on it, but I think that this is going to be an interesting one because we're seeing a lot of people roll to over reliable first half Alabama to try and cut down this big number.
Yeah. I'm torn on this one. I think a lot of the numbers I see, it's a very fair spread. And when you get into a game where, you got a Saban and an assistant, and does he take his foot off the pedal late in the game if he's up? Texas has enough firepower to expose that if that's what he does. I'm not interested in the line. I could get into the first half just because you could see a situation where that's when they're just trying to steamroll everything. My struggle in this game is I can't see Texas mounting much of an offense. Quinn Ewers looked pretty bad in week 1. And what I mean by that is I think he was 7 for 7 in horizontal passing that went for 107 yards. So balls within the line of scrimmage that receivers ran after catch for about 100 yards. That's not happened against Alabama today. Down the field, he was a little worse. And I think he was almost 50%. So he's going to have to go downfield. And then with that, they're just going to take out Bijan Robinson, in my opinion, and say, Quinn, you go try and beat us. And it's not going to happen. So I really see a struggle here of Texas scoring. I don't see a struggle of Alabama scoring. So I could see value in the first half line.
Yeah, definitely. Our guy, Shady checking in, man. Our MMA guy. We got a crazy chaos in the UFC that tonight as well. But listen, we appreciate you checking in. I was, touching base on him last night. We played a little bit in New Mexico. Luckily, we got to push in that game. No harm, no foul. We'll start fresh today, and hopefully we can get some winners. But listen, we appreciate you guys checking in for sure. This game, Dave, when I look at it, I see it pretty clear cut. Now, I didn't go big on this game because it can go the dynamics between Saban and Sark, I think gives it a lot of variance. Like,
Yeah.
is he going to go at him? Is he going to run it up? Like, what's it going to look like? But when I see this game, like I see, the big matchup or the biggest advantage for Alabama is their defensive line against the Texas offensive line. I thought Texas looked a little subpar in two areas last week, and it was the offensive line and it was the secondary. And Alabama has two players named Bryce Young and Will Anderson Jr. that can expose the hell out of those deficiencies, right? So, offensively, I think they're going to be all over Ewers. So you have an inexperienced quarterback, a freshman guy. He's facing, one of the best defensive lines in college football that's going to be all over him. He's a gunslinger by nature, so they're going to be forcing him into mistakes. Alabama should be able to score a ton on this secondary. They let up 7.3 yards per attempt last week. So I think Alabama gets off to a big lead here, and then that gets us into like a weird game, right? So it turns into like, how does Texas respond to being down by, 14, 21 points early? And, I think the answer to that is a lot of interceptions, right? I think it's Ewers trying to force a lot of things, a lot of turnovers, a lot of short fields for Alabama. So I can understand people playing Alabama that side, laying the big number. I played the over in this game, played it small, but I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see Alabama get off to a big lead. Texas, give them a lot of short fields, defensive touchdowns, trying to fight back. And I think eventually Alabama, when they get a big enough lead, they are going to take their foot off the gas, and Texas is going to get some points on the board. So I see this could easily be like a 7 to 20 game, or 47-21 or 48-21. If Alabama wants to, they'll put up another 50 on Texas. Like, it's
I agree.
Texas, Utah State, no difference to them. They score whenever they want on both those teams. So it really depends on whether Saban pulls the dogs off. But I think that they're going to be able to put up a lot of points, and I think Ewers is not going to give up. He's going to keep being aggressive, trying to fire the ball down the field. I think we're going to see a lot of turnovers from Texas, and I think all that is going to blend into a game script that leads to a higher total. So I played a little bit on the over, not an official play, but that's how I attack this game.
Yeah. No, I think I'd be with you on the same side. I don't have really anything on it, but I think it's pretty clear. I think I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this one and try and understand, for me, more what Texas is than what Alabama is. I think we know it, and I think they're going to flex their muscles. My only concern about this coach thing that we kind of highlighted last week is we thought the same with Kirby Smart. And he just decided now maybe that a lot of that's Oregon and Bo Nix.
Yeah, he's like, I will smash you.
He decided, I'm going to smash you worse than anybody ever.
He went Hazmat Chimaev and was like, I will smash you. That's it. Yes, and that was, that was an eye opener, man. Like, and not only that, they did it with the pass. They spread them out and Stenson diced them up, man.
He was like 9 for 9 on third down or something crazy. Like, it was amazing.
But they beat him up on the line of scrimmage too. So, that was the part I didn't see coming. It was kind of definitely a bad read. Listen, anytime you're taking 17 points and you lose by 46, it's a bad read. So that was one I got wrong. But we move on. But this game, it's going to be it's kind of how I see it, and it's I think that Texas is going to get a taste of, the level of competition in the SEC and what their life's going to be like in the future. And I don't think they're going to like it. I think that, can they be competitive down the road? Sure. They're going to have crazy recruits at Manning there. And, in the future, they're going to be able to compete, but not today. Like, not today. So I can understand Alabama first half, can understand Alabama even laying the 21 points, but I chose to attack this game on the over. Small play, not an official play. That's how we run it. But going to be a lot of fun, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Texas is going to be a really interesting team. I think we know what we're getting out of Alabama. Wins every week, but outside, Texas is going to be a fun team to keep an eye on.
Yep.
Awesome. So let's get into our bets. I want to lead off a game that we're both on, Dave, right? This is a
Sure.
game that where we're in agreement. We're going to start with a team that I bet the first 2 weeks, week 0, week 1, Illinois Fighting Illini, right? They bring in DeVito from Syracuse, and they kind of, bring in the coordinator from UTSA. They want to change kind of the identity of the offense. They want to be more up tempo, be a little bit more faster, instead of trying to, duplicate Wisconsin. They still want to be a physical team, but they're trying to change a little bit in the team in transition. We saw them lay an egg last week against Indiana. I was lucky enough to get away with the push. Definitely had 1,000 opportunities to win that game. And then this week, they take on Virginia, right? So Virginia comes into this matchup. We know what we got with Virginia. Brennan Armstrong, record-breaking offense, right? And as good as their offense is, that's as bad as their defense is, right? They can't stop anybody. So that's the type they want to shoot out. They want a high variance game. And I think when we look at this game, Dave, we see it both the same way. We think it's going to be that type of game.
I do. But it's still a little stunning to me that Illinois is favored and favored with a little margin here. I see a lot of instances where UVA is actually the better team, stronger in many of the key areas. And then I look back to last season, they beat this Illinois team 42-14. Now, I know they're not exactly the same teams, but it's a pretty close to same offense for Virginia. Brennan Armstrong threw for 405 yards in that game, has most of his receivers from that game back. And they just torched Illinois. You talked about the changes to Illinois mainly being on offense. DeVito coming in, the new offensive coordinator. But I just see this as a fast-paced Virginia team that's going to push the pedal, and I don't think DeVito can keep up. They had the lead last week. They had many chances to close out that game. Indiana is bad, a very bad
very
team.
Bad.
And they did not put them away. And it brought back my concerns of this team. I don't think they can keep pace with a team like Virginia. That's really my concern here. Even if they get up a little early, like they did against Indiana last week, they didn't show me that they can close the team either. So a lot of this, it just leans towards Virginia to me.
Yeah, I love Virginia here. I gave it out early in the week. I want to say 4.5 we got with Virginia. Down to 4 now. So, but I still think anything over 3 is a play here with Virginia. I think they are live in this game. When you look at the two teams and how they want to play, right? Virginia wants to play fast paced. They want to let Armstrong win the game. And Illinois wants to play fast paced as well, and I think that's going to play right into the hands. But the difference between the two teams is that what did we see last week? What did them in against, Indiana? Sloppy turnovers, right? So they're playing fast, but they're just not there yet. They're not comfortable with it. They're putting the ball on the carpet. DeVito was wildly inaccurate, like
especially on the run.
Ocean. Yeah, especially on the run. And put the ball on the carpet, threw an interception, right? And again, you said it, like this is this is an Indiana team that is not great. Like offensively, there were, I want to say 8 games where they scored less than 15 points, 15 or less points last year. Like they can't score, at all. And they drove the length of the field with the game on the line on this Illinois defense. And I think so when you look at that, like what's Armstrong going to do? He's going to score a lot of points here. And that's just the scoreboard pressure is going to make DeVito make more mistakes, and get more loose with the ball. And I think take them out of what they can do best. So, I think that I think Virginia's the side here. I think, they're going to play into Virginia's game plan. And I think getting it above 3, I think is very valuable here. So this was an official play I gave out earlier in the week at the Sharp app. Can't get the 4.5 now, get the 4, but maybe it goes up. You can get the 4.5, but I still think you're good either way. I think Virginia on the money line, even though I didn't play it, probably deserves some consideration here.
I agree. And I'm making UVA one of my plays too. I just think, one of those situations where you have a better team, a team that can play their style more comfortably, and a team that has history of, dominating this team, recent history. I really do. And sometimes they use that as motivation for the other side, but I just don't see it here. And I just don't trust the coach at Illinois. So I think he's a turd. Bielema, right? Yeah. Like I just don't. And, I just watch him sit over there and lose games on the constant. So give me UVA as well. I love the 4. And I'm with you. I think money line's in play, but I'm more comfortable hammering the 4.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, getting to 4, you get a fast paced game. And again, like these high scoring, fast paced games are high variance. So it comes down to who's making mistakes. And when you get a high scoring total like this, the underdog is just inherently more live. You know what I mean? And I think, that's what we're going to see here. I think Illinois plays right into Virginia's hands. I think Virginia puts up a big number. And I think Illinois makes a lot of mistakes trying to keep up. So love the Cavaliers here, plus the 4. Let's punch it in. Guys, if you have best bets, drop them in the comments. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Hit the like button. Take care of us here over at the Sharp app, doing great work. But listen, let's move on to another game. Dave, starts at noon. We got a nooner here. We got Wake Forest and Vanderbilt. Wake Forest gets Sam Hartman back. We've seen a ton of line movement. This one opened at 6. It was moving before the Hartman news, but it really, we put an extra touchdown on the board here. We're seeing 13 and a half now that Sam Hartman's back. And, the totals on the rise too, right? Opened up around 59, 58 and a half, and all the way up to now we're mid 60s, with Wake Forest. We know what this offense looked like with Sam Hartman, running the show last year. And, how do you think they're going to fare against Vanderbilt, a team that has looked good, but really hasn't played the type of competition that they're going to see today with Wake?
Yeah, this is a situation I think we're really getting good value today, even though you talked about the line moving in one direction. I'm on Wake, and I got a few reasons here. Hartman coming back obviously injects a lot of, positivity into the team. People rally around Hartman. A lot thought he was out because of some of his, let's say mental, health issues, but it turns out some of it was a blood clot, they were saying. So now he's fully cleared, looks good. I just think that energy, combined with the gap between these teams. Look, people think Vandy looked good because they beat, I think they're the 128th ranked team out of 130 in SP plus Hawaii, who's a 52-point underdog today in Michigan.
Yep.
And then they beat Elon by only 11. Yeah, Vandy's scoring some points. They're averaging 300 yards on the ground. Got it. That doesn't translate into big-time football. And today, you look at Wake Forest and Vandy. Vandy's 2-9 against the spread in their last 11 September games. One of those wins coming earlier against Hawaii. You look at their home games last year. 1-5 at home. The one they won was UConn by 2. If Hawaii's 128, UConn's 129, and you beat UConn by 2 at home, your 5 losses at home were by an average of 33 points. There's no home field advantage. There's nothing to worry about. And conversely, it's a little bit of a artificial stat, but I like it. Wake 5-0 in its last 5 games on turf. I say artificial because Wake plays on turf at home, but, playing in Vandy, they're comfortable on this surface. So, a lot of things. I just think they're going to throw the ball all day. Elon and Hawaii average almost 300 yards in the air against Vandy. I think there's no need to run the ball. I think it's an 80-20 game. Let Hartman get his 500. Let him get his 5 TDs. Let's roll out of there. 3 touchdown win.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it, dude. And I agree with you, with Hartman and Vanderbilt. Just not up to the task today, I think. So we're going to lay it here with the Demon Deacons. Aaron, check it in, man. We appreciate it. He's got 2 questions. Favorite pick of the day. And he's got UTSA to cover against Army. Army's a team that I think a lot of people are a little overvaluing coming into the season. We saw them get a lot of money against Coastal Carolina. Our guys, Dave, Coastal Carolina took care of business. That was a game that went over. We talked about it going over last week and just how Coastal Carolina doesn't have the defense it used to, right? But with Grayson McCall, they're going to be able to score points. So now Army tries to regroup against UTSA. I mean, this could be a good one. I was very impressed with UTSA against Houston. I would probably lean that way again today against Army. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, I like the Roadrunners. I mean, listen, they should have won the game at Houston. They absolutely should have won that game. Even the 2-point conversion at the end, Harris just got off his game a little bit and had to jump throw, and unfortunately launched a little too high. But UTSA was good last year. People weren't sure if they were going to be able to create that and bring it back with some coaching changes. But I think they are. And Army's bad. We saw that. I think we got a little lucky in the Coastal over, but we hit it because it got over and then they stopped scoring. But we got it by a point and we were good.
We got in there. They took care of us.
My numbers show UTSA on a neutral field should be around this 8 to 10 point favorite. You're only getting them at 2 in Army, and Army's not really that type of home field advantage. I like your pick with UTSA.
I think I think Army's overvalued. And one of the big things coming into the year was, they kind of changed the chop blocking rules, and that really impacts these triple option teams. And it was, people wanted to see how these service academy teams looked. Obviously, Air Force run for 1,000,000,000 yards, but and they're probably going to do it again today against Colorado, even though I think that spread's wide. Like that Air
It
Force
is,
line, I think is
but
wide. I might still get in a little bit on Colorado there, depending on where that number goes. But again, so I just think Army a little bit overvalued. So I like UTSA here, man. Best of luck to our guy Aaron. Do us a favor, hit the like button. All you guys tuning in, hit the like button. Let's get these likes popping, so we can get some action. And now we're gonna go to a game, Dave, where we are not in agreement. Speaking of UTSA, right? Tough loss last week against the Houston Cougars. Houston Cougars now taking on Texas Tech. They got to go to Lubbock. They got to play the Red Raiders. And Houston is a team that I was very high on, coming into the year. Was a little disappointed to see the way they started against UTSA and how the defense got worked a little bit. One of their strengths is their defensive front, but it was good to see Clayton Tune and the offense kind of get things together with, Nathaniel Dell. And I thought that was going to be a key component to their success this year, is the offense kind of complementing the defense a little bit more than what we saw last year. Listen, admittedly, Houston lucky to get out of there with a win last week, but I think they bounced back here against Texas Tech. We got Texas Tech installing a new offensive system. Zach Kuechly there, the guy from Western Kentucky that, really got Bailey Zappi into the NFL. He brings his system over. But now they got to turn to Donovan Smith, right? Tyler Shuck gets hurt last week. They turned Donovan Smith. A lot of people said that quarterback competition was really close, so it didn't impact the line. But I'm on the dog here with Houston, at the key number. I think that there's value there. I think that the defense is going to be over an offense that is still kind of figuring out the new system and kind of figuring out who they are. And I think the Cougars defense can exploit them here. And offensively, they have enough to get some points on the board and get a road win. But you see it a little bit differently, correct? And this is good. We can give bettors both perspectives.
I do, and I love your angle and where you're at. And yes, I was also high on Houston at the beginning of the year, picked them to win their conference, and riding some futures on that as well. But this isn't a conference game, so I'm not worried about it. And I look at this game from a perspective of, I'll take a little recency. And that last week where we thought Houston's D was, one of the better units in the nation, 9th last year in EPA per play, lining up 440 plus yards to UTSA, plus 400 alone to Frank Harris, does light some, bulbs in my head. And maybe they're not as good as I thought. And then secondarily, where my concerns were with Houston on the offensive side was at running back. McCaskill, they lost before the season. We knew
they can't run.
3.9 yards per carry last year was 115th, and now it was 3.1 in the opener. They're not going to be able to run. Tune led the team with 51 yards. That's not going to happen again either. So I see a situation. And he saved their day, by the way. He helicoptered like Elway style in the end zone near the end of the game that helped them out. But I look on the other side, and you say Texas Tech is still getting used to this offense, maybe, but they did hang 63 in week 1, and Shall being out got it, but I mean, this kid last year was pretty solid. Smith for Texas Tech beat Iowa State in an upset, won the game in the bowl game. Mississippi State last week had 4 touchdowns, only 2 incompletions, so it was a close battle. They have faith in him, so I don't think there's a huge gap between the quarterbacks. And in this case, I love the angle of Western Kentucky's offensive coordinator coming over to Texas Tech and Zach Kuechly and installing this fast pace. Remember the zapper last year, right? I mean, they just threw every single play. And I think that's going to be one of those today. I think Texas Tech has the weapons outside. The receivers are good. Quarterback's good. And I'm worried that Houston can keep pace. I think Tank Dell, I think the world of Tune, they're fighters. But I think this is a tough matchup going down to Texas Tech. And I think Texas Tech does win this one.
Nice, very nice. So, there you go. You got both sides, and I agree. It's going to be a fun game for sure. Aaron checking and wants to know what our favorite pick is. Dave, we got one more to hit before we get out of here. But, for me, it's Virginia. Like, I think Virginia's the most solid play that I have. That's the official pick that I gave out the members on the Sharp app. What about you? If you had to give a best bet for our guy, Aaron, he's loading up on UTSA, but he wants another play here. What do you got as your best one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm that high on UVA as well. I have
Yeah, I think that's the one, man.
I'll combine it, but I'll give you my last one here, and it was my favorite, but I'm walking on a little bit of coals right now on it. And I love the Kentucky Wildcats. I'm wearing my
Mhm.
Tyrese Maxey jersey today because it's the only Kentucky thing I got going on. But I'm feeling them. For me, they are the better team than Florida, and it shows in a lot of different rankings. Look at SP Plus, where they're a better team by about 3-4 teams in the rankings, and then you go down there today and you're getting 6 points. It just seems a little odd to me. I think you're better on the offensive line, better on the defensive line, better at quarterback. Everybody's favorite now is Anthony Richardson. All of a sudden, now he's all this Heisman hype because Napier got him playing a good game against Utah. Got it. Do you guys remember what Stroud did against Utah last year? I do,
Yeah.
and it was like 3,000 points. So, I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from Florida and Richardson, but I'm just trying to educate you that Kentucky is actually the better football team, and they're getting 6 points today. A little concerned, and why I say I'm walking on coals. The running back situation concerns me a little. But I think Levis can do it. I think if you put it in his arms, this is a guy that's being touted as a top 10 potential pick in the NFL draft next year.
Mhm.
Kid out of Penn State that transferred to Kentucky. What it's always been with Kentucky and what it always will be, and that's where I hope Levis alleviates that, is turnovers. They seem to have bad turnovers at the wrong time. And when they lose that turnover battle, they're horrible against the spread. Anybody else is, but they're even worse. So today, I still like them. I still think they can win without, Rodriguez and some of the others in the backfield. And 6 is generous. I'm jumping on the 6.
Yeah.
The 6.
I agree. I think it's an inflated line. Like I think it should be around 3 or 4. But I think you have solid points. Like especially in regards to Richardson. Like if you watch that offense, like down to down, they weren't real impressive. We see the highlight plays because that's what he is. He's a highlight
Yes.
machine, and he deserves credit for making some of those incredible plays. You know what I mean? But like down the down, they kind of struggled, and and they'll
We
get
should have
better as the
lost.
season goes on.
That
Yeah,
was a horrible pass. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you're throwing in triple coverage over the middle. And what plays over the middle work from the 2-yard line? Ask the Seahawks.
yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I know, and I just think that this game comes down to Levis. Like I think, you said it the best. Without the running game, they're down 3 running backs. They're going to have to rely on him, and he's going to have to make plays without turning the ball over. But this line's too wide, so I agree with you. If I were to play a side, I would play Kentucky. I like the over in this one. I think that the game script is set up to where, like, hey, with Kentucky not being able to run, they're going to have to push the ball down the field, and I think Florida is going to be able to get some big plays as well on their side. So I think people think swamp, they think Kentucky, they think Florida being a more physical team with Napier, they kind of lean to the under. But I don't know. Maybe it's because I got burned in the under in the swamp last week. I don't want to get burned again. Who knows? But I just think that this is set up to where we're going to see a little more points than we expect. And, if that's the case, having an extra 6 with Kentucky doesn't sound like a bad idea. So awesome stuff with that. Our guy Dan checking in. He wants to his main plays. Are we on the over as well? Definitely on the over, a little bit on the Alabama. The other ones, again, this game, I'm over a little bit on the Kentucky on the over. But nothing too crazy. Like didn't go all in on the totals. Dave, how about you? That Vandy game, are you playing the over too, or you just laying the points?
Yeah,
Wait,
I
wait.
was looking at that. I think it's like 70. And I
That's the
just
thing. It's shot up, and it's shot up because of Hartman. But it makes
65.
you wonder if there's any value left, like in that total. Like it's a big number now.
I
I know
do
you
think
said 80-20 final, but I
yeah,
think you're
I
being a little
do think
facetious.
I do think Wake can get to 49.
Play team. Look at team total,
Yeah,
Dan. Look at
that's where I
Wake
would
team
lean.
total over instead of full game over because you don't know what you're going to get at a Vanderbilt.
No, you don't. They could be a team that is, what they're showing on offense. But again, Elon Hawaii, I'm not sure they are what they are on offense. So yeah, I like the team total over with Wake. I think that's a good call, Jones.
Awesome stuff. Listen, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. Can't wait. Fantastic week 2 coming up. Hopefully the odds are in your favor. We hit all our bets. We come back week 3 with a little bit fatter pockets. We appreciate you tuning in. But before you guys leave, listen, make sure you hit the like button and join the Discord if you're not already. We'll chat up during these games. We'll make some winners, and hopefully we'll have a good Saturday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.